way up on a backwards hill. Which The sea was wet as wet could be. The sand was dry as dry. You could not see a cloud, because no cloud was in the sky. No birds were flying overhead. There were no birds to fly.
Whosever room this is should be ashamed. His underwear is hanging on the lamp. His raincoat is there in the overstuffed chair, and the chair is becoming quite muggy and damp. The sun was shining on the sea, shining with all his might. He did his very best to make the billows smooth and bright. And this was odd because it was the middle of the night.
Hick, 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 hick. Want to curry your hiccups quick. Cure. Want to cure your hiccups quick? Stick out your tongue and bite your lip. The time has come, the walrus said, to talk of many things, of shoes and shits and sealing wax and cabbages and kings, and why the sea is boiling hot and whether pigs have wings.
Examination. I went to the doctor, he reached down my throat, he pulled out a shoe and a little toy boat. The sea was wet as wet could be. The sands were dry as dry. You could not see a cloud because no cloud was in the sky. No birds were flying overhead. There were no birds to fly.
The good little bird, she has no feet. She cannot walk upon the street. She cannot build herself a nest. She cannot land and take a rest. A loaf of bread, the walrus said, is what we chiefly need. Pepper and vinegar besides are very good indeed. Now if you're ready, oysters dear, we can begin to feed.
So tomorrow just look at the sky, and if there's no moon, you can bet I've found what I sought, and I finally caught the moon in my moon catching net. The sun was shining on the sea, shining with all his might. He did his very best to make the billows smooth and bright. And this was odd, because it was the middle of the night.
Standing and stooping, calling is a curse. Skipping is silly, walking is worse. Hopping is hopeless, jumping is a chore. Sitting is senseless, leaning is a bore. Running's ridiculous, jogging's insane. Guess I'll go upstairs again and lie down again.
The sun was shining on the sea, shining with all its might. He did his very best to make the billows smooth and bright. And this was odd because it was the middle of the night.
You have a magic carpet that will whiz you through the air, to Spain or Maine or Africa if you just tell it where. So will you let it take you where you've never been before, or will you buy some drapes to match and use it on your floor?
I weep for you, the walrus said. I deeply sympathize. With sobs and tears he sorted out those of the largest size, holding his pocket handkerchief before his streaming eyes.
There's a polar bear in our refrigerator. He likes it because it's cold in there. With his seat in the meat and his face in the fish and his big hairy paws in the buttery dish. The eldest oyster looked at him, but never said a word he said. The eldest oyster winked his eye and shook his heavy head, meaning to say he did not choose to leave the oyster bed. Catching. I tried to catch a cold as he went running past on a damp and chilly afternoon in autumn. I tried to catch a cold, but he skittered by so fast that I missed him, but I'm glad to hear you call him. The eldest oyster looked at him, but never a word he said. The eldest oyster winked his eye and shook his heavy head. He needs to say he did not choose to leave the oyster bed.
Take an eel, take a loop, use him as a hula hoop. Feel him twist and twirl and swing, down your ankles, around your chin.
The sun was shining on the sea, shining with all his might.
He did his very best to make the billows smooth and bright. And this was odd because it was the middle of the night.
The walrus got braces, and that's why his face is a tangle of wire and steel. He'll sit and he'll wait till his tusks are both straight, and then think how happy he'll feel.
The walrus and the carpenter were walking close at hand. They wept like anything to see such
Quantities.
quantities of sand. If this were only clear away, they said, it would be a grain.
Said the little boy, sometimes I drop my spoon. Said the little old man, I do that too. The little boy whispered, I wet my pants. I do that too, laughed the little old man. Said the little boy, I often cry. The old man nodded, so do I.
It seems a shame, the walrus said, to play them such a trick, after we've brought them out so far and made them trot so quick. The carpenter said nothing, but the butter spread too thick.
This bridge will only take you halfway there, to those mysterious lands you long to see. Through gypsy camps and swirling Arab fairs, and moonlit woods where unicorns run free.
The walrus and the carpenter walked on a mile or so, and then they rested on a rock conveniently low, and all the little oysters stood and waited in a row.
If I eat one more piece of pie, I'll die. If I can't have one more piece of pie, I'll die. So since it's all decided I must die, I must as well have one more piece of pie.
The sun was shining on the sea, shining with all his might. He did his very best to make the billows smooth and bright. And this was odd because it was the middle of the night.
The great sword swallower, Solomar, he wears no ties or collars. He leans back, opens his mouth, and gulp, his sword he swallows. The eldest oyster looked at him, but never a word he said. The eldest oyster winked his eye and shook his heavy head, meaning to say he did not choose to leave the oyster bed.
Some people cure their nails. Some people trim them neatly. Some people keep them filed down. I bite them off completely.
A loaf of bread, the walrus said, is what we chiefly need. Pepper and vinegar besides are very good indeed. Now, if you are ready, oysters dear, we can begin to feed.
Use a log to hit a hog, use a twig to hit a pig, use a rake to hit a snake, and a swatter to hit an otter. Use a ski to hit a bee, and use a feather when you hit me.
It seems such a shame, said the walrus, to play such a trick after they brought them out so far and made them trot so quick. The carpenter said nothing. The butter spread too thick.
My grandpa went to Myrtle Beach and sent us back a turtle each. And then he went to Kathmandu and mailed a real live cockatoo.
If 7 maids with 7 mops spread it for half the year, do you suppose the walrus said that they could get it clear? I doubt it, said the carpenter, and shed a bitter tear.
I've discovered a way to stay friends forever. There's really nothing to it. I simply tell you what to do, and you do it.
The moon was shining sulkily because she thought the sun had got no business to be there after the day was done. It's very rude of him, she said, to come and spoil the fun.
I'm the dragon of Grindley Grim. I breathe fire as hot as the sun. When the night comes to fight, I just toast him on the side, like a hot, crispy cinnamon bun. A loaf of bread, the walrus said, is what we chiefly need. Pepper and vinegar, besides, are very good indeed. Now, if you're ready, oysters dear, we can begin to feed.